In the heart of the exclusion zone, beneath the fractured bones of Reactor 4, there's a place no map acknowledges. A cavity carved out of concrete and secrecy, a chamber murmured about in half sentences by men who've forgotten how to sleep. Officially, it shouldn't exist. Unofficially, nothing about Chernobyl ever stayed within its paperwork. Blueprints from 1983 show neat grids of service corridors and steam conduits, cable shafts branching like veins. But compare them with the post-86 diagrams and those veins vanish, as if someone reached in with a scalpel and excised entire rooms. No annotation, no correction stamps, just absence. It's like watching a photograph with the central figure cut out, the message suddenly louder by what's missing. Former technicians swear those corridors were real. They describe a hallway that hummed, not with machinery, but with something heavier, as if the air itself carried voltage. At its end, a door plated with lead, bolts thick as a wrist, useless for routine engineering, essential if you meant to keep something in or everyone else out. That door wasn't for people, one man muttered before refusing to say another word. His hands trembled like he still felt the heat. The night of the explosion, that sector was sealed first. Not the turbine hall, not the ventilation galleries, that door. Welded shut by order, the edges fused under torch flame minutes before the alarms began. The welder who performed it didn't live to explain why. His toolkit was found later, warped like soft wax. And then there are the missing logs. Inventory records from the spring of '86, simply gone. Not misfiled, not redacted. Gone like someone lifted the pages out of history and hoped no one would notice the gaps in the binding. Cross-reference the sequential numbers and the jumps are obvious. 438, 439, 447. 8 days unaccounted for. 8 days when something was delivered, tested, or removed. Whatever occupied that time was heavy enough to leave indentations on the floor and fear in the men who spoke of it. Officials insist there was nothing secret under the reactor. Yet fences still stand where no wildlife ventures. Geiger counters stutter near the old maintenance shaft, not with the frantic chatter of loose contamination, but with a steady pulse, like a heartbeat. If nothing ever existed down there, then why does the silence feel engineered? Who decided that even the ruins should keep their mouth shut? Long before the night the sky turned white over Chernobyl, the plant's purpose had begun to drift. On paper, it remained a civilian power station. In practice, budgets arrived from offices whose addresses were redacted, stamped with project codes that didn't match anything in the energy sector. Engineers received shipments with no sender, crates padded with foam and instructions handwritten in ink that blurred under sunlight, as if the page itself resisted exposure. Surviving fragments of correspondence hinted experiments meant to push materials into conditions nature never intended. Neutron flux elevated beyond commercial thresholds, thermal gradients sharp enough to peel paint from steel. A phrase surfaces more than once. Candidate substance displaying anomalous strain responses. Whatever that means, no glossary explains it. Testimonies from personnel ripple with hesitation. One technician recalled delivering a cart to a sublevel that didn't exist on the plant's master map. Passing through a checkpoint, he noticed his reflection darken in the glass as if the light behind him flickered, but no bulb was installed overhead. He heard a clicking, steady and rhythmic, like a metronome made of static. A woman in a grey coat signed his manifest, her badge blank where a name should be. "This isn't your floor," she told him. He didn't argue. After the disaster, investigative teams found anomalies that sat uneasily with the official narrative. A stairwell sealed from the inside with welds still glossy. A chamber coated in fire-retardant foam that had dried before it ever touched flames, implying preparation, not reaction. On the walls, stenciled warnings in English, not Russian or Ukrainian, even though no foreign contractors were ever acknowledged. Unofficial explorers, the ones who slip past fences and believe in what evidence leaves behind, describe a corridor where dosimeters pulse in measured bursts, as if something cycles beneath the concrete. They speak of a room warmer than the rest, heat emanating from beneath the floor like breath, and a generator that vibrates faintly although every cable has been severed. On its casing, a message scratched into the metal, not for field use. No date, no signature, just that. Theories fracture like glass under stress. Some insist the plant hosted a materials science program. Audacious, reckless, but born of scientific hunger. Others claim military oversight shaped the agenda, chasing breakthroughs that required conditions only an RBMK core could replicate. And then the fringe opinion, persistent like a splinter, that a compact reactor, not for power but for experimentation, sat below the main one, a prototype built to observe thresholds that textbooks refuse to print. Nothing conclusive, everything suggestive, a pattern of erasures too deliberate to ignore, documents missing not by accident but by intention, rooms designed, used and then removed from memory, architectural ghosts. Whatever lived beneath Reactor 4 was never meant to be seen. And when the catastrophe erupted overhead, the question that matters isn't what caused the meltdown, it's what survived it. Decades passed before anyone admitted the missing corridors might still be there, not on maps, beneath them. Concrete settles strangely in irradiated soil. Voids form where there should be weight. In 1998, a survey team measuring subsidence detected an echo under the reactor's foundation. A cavity roughly the size of a gymnasium, depth uncertain. Their report was filed, stamped, and buried. The lead geologist emigrated within the year. His replacement refused to discuss the findings. 5 years later, a man named Mikhail Volkov, former plant electrician, liquidator and widower, returned to the zone without permission. He claimed he was chasing closure, but he carried a canvas bag lined with lead and a map drawn from memory, not from archives. The map showed a service hatch behind the sarcophagus panels, obscured by rebar. He remembered it being welded shut the week before the explosion. He insisted it wasn't there by accident. The night he went in, rain hammered the ruins. Water dripped through the skeleton of the turbine hall like a clock with no mercy. Volkov pried away the debris, revealing a seam in the wall, a hatch recessed into concrete, no handle, only an indentation where a badge reader once sat. He touched the panel. A hiss. The seal broke with a sigh, stale air swelling out, warm and metallic. Inside, a stairwell spiraling down. The walls were smooth, poured later than the rest of the plant, the aggregate finer, the reinforcement richer, as if someone built this part with expectations the rest of the station never shared. Halfway down, his flashlight skated across symbols etched into the concrete. Not letters, not numbers, sequence marks, repeating at irregular intervals like calibration points. At the bottom, a corridor warmer than the surface. Volkov's breath didn't fog, even in late autumn. His dosimeter ticked not frantically but rhythmically, like a pulse measured by an indifferent physician. He followed cables stapled to the ceiling. Cables the official shutdown team swore they had severed in '86. Then the room. Rectangular, low ceiling lined with cabinets sealed by clasps the size of thumbs. In the center, a pedestal of reinforced steel, scorched yet intact. On it lay shards of a container, edges fused like glass. He picked one up with gloved fingers. It weighed nothing and everything. Featherlight, yet his arm trembled as if lifting a stone. Behind him, a hum. Low, resonant, unmistakable. The cabinets vibrated, the pedestal warmed. His dosimeter went silent. Not dead, but mute, the screen blank as if refusing to register what it saw. And then he noticed the generator in the corner, its blades turning without a power line, lubricated by nothing, smooth as breath. Volkov did not panic. He closed the bag around the shard, sealing it behind lead. The moment he did, the hum faltered, stuttered, steadied again lower, a heartbeat receding. He backed away, step by careful step, until the generator's whisper felt like memory rather than presence. At the top of the stairs, he turned for one last glance. The lights flickered on, not overhead but from the floor, tracing a path deeper into the dark, as if inviting him to follow where no human footsteps should go. Volkov left the hatch unsealed. He believed someone needed to know. He would not be that person. 2 weeks later, he was found on a train to Kiev. Heart stopped, expression calm. The canvas bag was gone. The map, however, the hand-drawn map, was tucked in his coat pocket. The corridor sketched in graphite, the pedestal circled once, and beside it, 3 words in trembling English. It is awake. The shard recovered from Volkov never appeared in evidence logs. Yet within months, independent labs across Europe reported quiet visits from regulatory representatives asking about any unusual samples from the zone. In each case, the labs described the same phenomenon: containers arriving empty, seals intact, as if whatever had been inside chose to leave. In 2004, infrared satellites recorded heat blooming beneath Reactor 4. A flare of temperature no residual decay should explain. Officials blamed camera error. A retired NASA analyst disagreed. He noted the patterns spiked in intervals exactly 32 seconds apart, like respiration. His letter vanished before publication. His colleagues stopped returning calls. Then there were the birds. Guides near Pripyat described flocks veering wide around a specific contour of Earth, altering migration paths that had held for generations. One ranger found a rook lying perfectly still, wings folded, chest warm. It was breathing, shallow, uneven, but its shadow on the ground lagged behind it by half a second, like film frames misaligned. No camera captured the anomaly, only human eyes. By 2016, structural scans of the sarcophagus revealed a void expanding at the base like a cavity eroding outward. Engineers proposed soil creep. Geophysicists whispered another term, directed displacement. Something pushing, not collapsing. Pressure rising like a tide behind a dam no one remembered building. The map from Volkov's coat resurfaced in auction circles. Graphite lines, annotations smudged. Every buyer who inquired received the same reply from the seller. You'll need a countermeasure. No explanation, just that. The map never sold. One morning it was simply withdrawn, listing removed, seller's account deleted. What remains are artifacts of absence, heat with no source, machinery with no power, instructions without author. Every piece points inward, to the space beneath Reactor 4, to doors welded and unwelded, to corridors that imply destination without promising return. And always, that lingering hum, felt in bones, not ears. If it was an experiment, there should be records. If it was an accident, there should be ruins. But what lies there is neither. So the question stops being what happened in 1986. It becomes what is still happening, right now, in the dark. And if the thing that stirs beneath the concrete ever decides the world above is worth seeing, there may be no weld thick enough to hold it back.